Hey everybody out there, my name is Drynix, and this is the result of the 1,000 subscriber giveaway on the channel. Now, people who've been on the channel before and have seen me do a giveaway know that I do things a little bit differently. I like to use a game to actually determine it rather than just letting the random number generator figure it out. So the idea here is that I'm going to use Nuclear Throne this time. Now you're wondering, well wait a minute, how are you going to do that? Well, the way the Nuclear Throne works is that, you do as much as you can in a run and then you die. You get a number of kills in that run. The number of kills in question will be divided by 27 and use some modular math at this point. If you go into Google and you do like 27 mod 27, you'll get a remainder of 0. That remainder will determine on the list of people who it is in that slot. Now, I did 10 runs in question. Actually, I did about 13, but a couple of them repeated in terms of modular remainders, so unfortunately, I had to do it again and again. And then I ranked them based on the number of kills. The top kill number will get the first choice, and then so on and so forth. So what you're seeing right now is actually the run in which I got the most kills, which is surprising because it was the one where it's sort of, very risky and rewardy, which is always interesting to do, but I was surprised that I got the most with him. Now for the rest of the video, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the comments, concerns, and questions that came up in the video about what I may do in the future, what I need to change, so on and so forth. Sherlock wrote that, he wants me to focus on indie games, which I do, of course, and that at time from time that I comment on about some trend in the video game industry, as I've done in the past. One of my bigger videos was the Arkham Knight PC port debacle. I'm surprised that got as many views as it did, but it did. But yeah, I will be continuing to do that. One of the things that I want to do for the top 10 list at the end of the year is the top 10 trends that I think need to continue and the top 10 trends that need to go away in the gaming industry. Now, I may not talk about everything because the thing is that a lot of the time I have problems in terms of some of the discussions that come up, mostly because, again, it doesn't go back to the games portion of it. Things like, the whole social justice warriors thing, I understand that, and I do think there are problems within the industry regarding that, although I don't think it's necessarily just the industry that has the problem. But I do want to try to focus on the game side of things more than anything else. Censorship is obviously something that's, sensitive to me, being, a YouTube creator myself and sort of having that sort of bad experience with a corporate environment. But I will sort of discuss it once in a while. Now, Down Parsons, who is somebody I work with over at TechRaptor, he is a news editor, and I do work with him on a daily basis, so keep that in mind, has a couple of questions for me. What do you think is the worst trend in game design these days? That will be in the top 10 trends that need to stop video, my answer to that, because there is a lot of trends that I'm having problems with, but that one in particular, it took me a while to, sort of come to my conclusion on that, but I want to keep it for that video at this point. What advice would you give to indie developers on standing out on Steam? Focus. I think the biggest thing that really makes a game shine is the fact that you focus on one thing and shine it until, it looks, appealing to people. One of the biggest problems I see with Steam is that people think that people just want more content or, just want a lot of things. And they add all these things but never get the sales that they think they need. And the thing about that is that there's a reason for that, is that they added a bunch of features that, yeah, some people may want, but it's not going to drive people to your game. What's going to drive people to your game is a feature that maybe somebody hasn't done before or shines so much that, they can't ignore it. If you're a roguelike player and you've got a really good roguelike base for it, people are going to be driven to that because of that, base at this point. They're not going to be driven for, 60 FPS, for example. Yeah, it'd be nice to have, but don't focus on that first. Focus on the one feature that really makes your game unique and work on that. Out of self-promotion difficulties, what has surprised you the most about YouTube? The self-promotion difficulties, yeah, that has surprised me, but I think I knew that going in. I think what surprised me about doing this is how much different I play games now. Playing a game for fun and playing a game to review it, I think people think it's the same thing, and by God, it's not. there is a specific sequence I do in games now that I never did before because I'm looking for the strengths of that game and how it reacts to not only me, but everybody. For example, when I go and play a game, I turn the sound off at one point. I turn the entire sound effects off, and then I turn the music off. People may think, well, that's part of the game. Well, to understand how well it works with the game, sometimes removing it and understanding what it does for the game is important. I never would have done that with an original game that I was just playing for, my own fun purposes. But now I'm using that to, determine, does the sound effect really have a really big impact on combat, for example? What do I have to do to make you write more? Don, I think it's more about what I need to just sort of get over at this point with some of my own stuff that I don't think it's necessarily anything that you can do at this point. I think it's more so what I've been focusing on lately. And, I've had my ups and downs, over the last several weeks and several months at this point. I know there's been some stress on my side for, the YouTube stuff and some problems with my perception of, Tech Raptor and things like that. It's going to be something that'll come in time, but honestly, I don't think there's anything you could do to actually get me to write more. It's something that I just sort of got to get over, I guess. Will you be making a Game of the Year prediction video is a question that +1View asked. Yes, I will be making a Game of the Year video in terms of my top 10. Now, it will be probably a bit different from others. It won't be a prediction video because, again, I want to give my experiences in terms of what games I thought were Game of the Year. And even though there are some candidates that will obviously be on other people's lists, things like Metal Gear Solid 5, and even though that game intrigues me, I'm not planning on playing it by the end of the year. Now, there are games that I did recently get that I am trying to see if whether or not they're worthy on the list. Some candidates that you would expect, some candidates that you wouldn't expect. And this last 2 weeks, I'm trying to catch up on those, entire year at this point. So keep a lookout for that. Grimsor says, +1 waiting for X-Blades. I feel like I'm the only one. I am really sorry about the X-Blades thing, and I'm really just paranoid about that video in particular. I don't know what it is that's stopping me at this point. I don't want to mention it only because of the fact that I just want to get it done and sort of let it, happen when it happens. I've got so many games that have come up over the release schedule that, people requesting me to cover or so on and so forth that I do try to give that coverage a little bit more depth more than anything else and a little bit more priority. But I do need to make that video because I really do want to make that video. Blue Bunny Gamer says that he would like to see more reviews on RPG games like Fable or lesser known titles. RPG games are really, really interesting in terms of the YouTube space because there's so much time that you got to put in it, and there's so much time that you got to, in order to get an understanding of things, that it's really hard to do a video on it, especially a review on it, and be timely. And I think the biggest thing there is that I do want to try to get content on it in a sort of a timely basis. However, yes, I do want to do more RPG reviews that I feel like I wanted to do Hard West, for example, and I do plan on doing Hard West. It's just one of those things that when the opportunity will present itself, it will present itself. Right now, it's just a lot of the games that I've been looking at have been action games. RPG hasn't exactly been the biggest category over the last several years in terms of games, and I think there's been a shift in terms of how RPGs work. I do want to take a look at Final Fantasy 15, for example, although I'm very, very hesitant because Final Fantasy 13 was such a disaster for me in particular. Official Nimrod Gaming says that you should give uploading games that you like to play a lot, or maybe walkthroughs of games that you really like to add to the channel. Now, walkthroughs I don't think will be my thing. Now, I did try that roguelike rundown with Ironcast and maybe general strategies and things like that. Walkthroughs I feel like are more suited for other people. I mean, my strength lies in terms of game design, in terms of, critically analyzing things, and in terms of like game walkthrough commentary, while I can do it at times, I just don't feel like it's my bread and butter at this point. Jay Labe indicated, and I hope I pronounced that right, love to see some review of classic games or comparisons on how IPs evolve. Now, I like the IPs evolved one, and that's something I've really wanted to actually do, especially like in the RPG genre, as we said before, because I feel like we've come so far and yet so different in terms of the modern RPG. So I definitely would like to see that. And, you know, like Fire Emblem design retrospective, yeah, I definitely could see myself doing that. In fact, I really do want to get more into some 3DS stuff. The thing is that the cost for the actual capture card is, I mean, it's not horribly significant, but it's significant enough where there's so much other content that I am producing on a timely basis that it's hard to justify, especially when, you know, again, I've been at this for about a year and maybe a month or two, and again, this has been my only income. It's not that much. I put a lot of money away in order to try this, so again, I have to be very cautious of stuff like that, but eventually I could see that working if things work out that way. How has being a streamer affected how you review games? Well, that is a very, very interesting question because it changes a lot of things because you understand some of the processes and decision-making that goes behind the scenes that people may not consider. The fact of the matter is that as a software developer, you know, people think it's very easy to put something together, or, you know, why don't you take care of this? And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. You know, when you're dealing with an old, you know, engine base, for example, and understanding that everything ties together, the idea of being able to, you know, pick out a bug very easily, it's not that simple. And I think people overlook some of the complexities that games can have and understand that, hey, maybe if I touch this, it could ruin 200 other things. And so a good game that's designed from the ground up won't have that problem. But we all know that, you know, things like, for example, Fallout 4 was using an old engine, or an enhanced old engine. So, of course, there were problems that it brought over. You'd love to redo everything from the front, but, of course, time-wise and budget-wise, that's not a possibility. So it's understanding that and understanding where technical problems can happen and where design decisions need to be made and when does affect how I review games, because I understand some of the strengths and weaknesses of the, you know, decisions that were made in that case. Do I have any dogs or cats, or planning on getting one? Our family has a dog. Her name is Cora. She's about, I want to say 8 or 9 years old at this point. She is a German short-haired pointer. She likes to lay on my bed a lot at this point, and she just lays around at this point. She is a very energetic dog. Just lately it's been, you know, chilling at this point. One question that was brought up off the YouTube comments was a Patreon, and in particular, setting up a Patreon for, you know, donating money to, you know, content creation. I've considered it at this point, and it would happen more so towards the January-February month, if anything. I don't think it's the time of the year at this point, but I do have to consider, if I'm going to make this a, you know, full-time career thing, that while ad revenue and YouTube Red Money, you know, could eventually, you know, do a very good job, right now it's not going to be paying the bills, and given the problems with ad revenue and the nature of it, a Patreon model may be more efficient for what I'm looking for. And again, it would provide more security in order to be able to bring you guys content like I do on a daily basis. So I am considering it. Now, there will be no situation where I block off content, however, in terms of Patreon. No special videos or anything like that in terms of, you know, people who donate. I don't see the strength in that. And honestly, it'd be more so, you know, a donation more than anything else. All right, this run is about to come to an end. Again, I mentioned at the start of the video how the winners were determined. Again, this was the #1 run in question. But in the end, this was about, let's see, how many kills did I end up getting on this run? 329. And that victory in terms of the remainder went to Dynasty Star. And the rest of the list is here. So congratulations to all the winners. I will be reaching out and giving you your games in question. Again, that's part of the reason why I put the paste bin up there. Anyway, thanks for watching this Nuclear Throne sort of playthrough at Dash, me answering questions, and I will see you all later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button on the right hand side there. The last video I did is in the top left, and a related video to this is in the top right. I do have a Facebook group, you can find it in the description below, and I do have a Twitter handle, you can also find it in the description below. Thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.